Dude, that was so peak. I wish they made another one, though. That'd be low-key kind of cool. I'm completely forgetting about the Telltale game. No shot. Bro, what the heck? I am not paying $300 for a frickin' Telltale game. What are we on? You know what? Might be risky, but I think we should go back in time and pick up a cheaper copy. Let's go. How do I look? What the fuck? What the hell was that? I have no idea what that was. We're gonna ignore that. We have to go to the past to get back to the future. The game. Let's go. Oh, what the hell? How the fuck does he do that? That is so not realistic. Alright, buddy. What the flip? My truck can't hit 88 miles an hour very fast. So while we wait, let's talk about the game's early development. Bob Gale, the co-creator, co-writer, and co-producer of the Back to the Future trilogy, lent Telltale a hand in creating this game's narrative, because to him, the previous attempts at creating a game based on the films were abysmal to say the least, and the only requirement he had for Telltale was that
this game cannot suck eggs.
The team over at Telltale were all fans of the movies growing up and wanted to make a game based on them so badly, and their first priority was to keep the IP safe and tell a story that was true to the feeling and vibe of the trilogy. And they definitely put their best foot forward in that regard, and honestly, this is always a great thing to hear when a company is creating a game based on a beloved franchise. Telltale's goal with this game was to give other fans like themselves a fun and exciting experience that felt just like the movies, and that's why they got all of the original cast to come back and reprise their roles, which was a no-brainer. Back to the Future without Christopher Lloyd, Thomas Wilson, and Michael J. Fox wouldn't feel like Back to the Future. Telltale wanted Michael to come and play Marty, but due to time commitments, they were only able to get him to come back and play a cameo, which I think is still awesome, and I'm really glad that we got to have him in this game at all. But their next worry was who was gonna play Marty. I have to give huge props to AJ Locascio because holy shit, this guy's Marty impression is spot on.
Jesus Christ, Doc, he disintegrated Einstein!
And the iron nuts that this guy has on him is something to aspire to. He saw that Telltale was making a Back to the Future game, looked the people up at the studio, called the first number he saw, and gave it his all. He sent in an MP3 of him doing his Marty impression, and even Christopher Lloyd couldn't tell that it wasn't Michael J. Fox. I think we can take a look at what he did and apply that to our own lives in any situation. Just have the confidence to do that one thing, and the worst thing that they can say is no. But still, every time I remember how he got the role for Marty, I wish I had an ounce of his confidence. With Bob Gale, Christopher Lloyd, Thomas Wilson, Michael J. Fox, Claudia Wells, and AJ Locascio on board, they were set to change the future. Great Scott, it actually worked, which is very surprising because this old bitch is a Ford. Shit, took us a while, but we're finally here. Good old 2010. Let's hope they actually sell games here.
Hey McFly, I think you left your DeLorean running, dumbass.
Whatever. I need a copy of Back to the Future the game right now.
Sorry, big guy. We're all sold out. It's almost Christmas, dude. I only have this display copy over here, but I can't sell you that. I can sell you on GameStop Pro membership, where you get 15% off all used games, and at the end of the year you'll...
What the hell is that?
What the hell is what? Ah, son of a bitch.
I'm so happy that I was able to get my hands on a copy of this game. You're probably wondering why. Well, to me, this isn't just a retro game. This is something that I've loved since I was a kid. I remember being at a friend's birthday party sleepover. They didn't know what movie to watch, and I saw the beat-up DVD flip case. When we opened it, Back to the Future was inside. And I said,
"Hey, let's watch this one."
And they were all down. Then I had to do the most 8-year-old thing ever. I called my mom to ask if it was okay. After I got the go-ahead from my mom, we proceeded to watch Peak Fiction. And I was the only one who stayed awake for the whole movie. Every one of the other kids were already out cold, and even the birthday boy's mom was asleep. and I was too scared to get up and turn the TV off after the movie had finished, so I sat on the living room floor for about an hour and a half, watching the opening scene selection for the movie until his mom woke up, turned the TV off, and said I could have gotten up and turned it off. I don't know why that's the main thing I remember about that night, but it is. And about 2 years later, I remember seeing Back to the Future the game in advertisements, in stores, on YouTube. I also watched people play it, and I wished I could have. Now that I'm an adult with adult money, I did what any reasonable man would do. I went on eBay. I bought the game that I wanted since I was a dripped up little tyke.
Think fast, Chuckle Nuts!
But here's the thing. Is this game actually good, or am I blinded by nostalgia? Does this game capture the magic of the trilogy that I've loved for my entire life? Let's find out. That was a good journey. Picked up a new friend. He's a bit odd. Seems alright though. Kind of looks like somebody I know. I don't know where I notice him from, but he's pretty chill, I think. He hasn't tried to touch me yet, but the night is young. Okay, so before we get into the plot, I just have to say, I was very worried that this game was going to be one of the movie tie-in games that bears the name of the film, but has none of the zip that the original movie had. Tasm 2. But thankfully, Back to the Future the game doesn't suffer from this one bit. As soon as you open the game, you see the classic Back to the Future text flash across the screen, just like in the movies. And I really love how, when you select a chapter in the menus, the settings for the game are literally the DeLorean. Incredible, I love it, it's fantastic.
Say that again.
Okay, so before we get into the narrative stuff that is pure magic, I just want to show you this scene. In my personal opinion, when making a movie tie-in game, I don't think it's that difficult to make the game resemble the movie's atmosphere, but Telltale really outdid themselves with this one. Just watch.
What did I tell you? 88 miles per hour! The thermal displacement occurred exactly 1:20 a.m. in 0 seconds!
Ah, Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ, Doc, you disintegrated Einstein.
Calm down, Marty. I didn't disintegrate anything. The molecular structure of both Einstein and the car are completely intact.
The scene that you just watched was the nightmare opening sequence, and Telltale did not have to go as hard or be as accurate as they did, but holy moly, that was such a great way to start off your game about a beloved trilogy by showing how accurate you can make the first 30 seconds of your game be. Holy moly, my hat is off to you. Great job. Now me personally, I'm a sucker for movie tie-in games. That shelf behind me that guy is, sitting in front of, there are multiple movie tie-in games. We've already talked about one on the channel, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I love them, and I love them when I can go into the game and I can walk around and explore iconic places from the film that I love. Like with The Amazing Spider-Man 2. The biggest praise that I gave that game was being able to walk around Aunt May's house, the place that I had seen from so many different angles in the films. But, I could never physically go there. I got to do that in the game. And Telltale did that with this game. In the beginning, after the nightmare sequence, we are able to go into Doc's garage and explore. And there are so many Easter eggs, knickknacks, and just callbacks. Give a dog a bone. To the first movie. And I feel that was a great way to open up your game and show off the base mechanics that you're going to be playing for the next 10 or 12 hours. And it also helps that, you get to sink in, you get to look at every little knick-knack and paddywhack and just soak it all in and enjoy before the real story starts. While you're exploring Doc's garage, this is when you're dropped into the first puzzle of the game. The first puzzle of the game is using the amp from Back to the Future 1 to get Doc's notebook from Biff. This was a simple puzzle, but it was also it's pure Back to the Future. You use Marty's guitar, plug it into the amp, set the settings all the way up, and you blast that guy back. Incredible. And when I played it on stream, it was like a eureka moment when I realized what I was supposed to do, because I remembered that scene from the movie. That puzzle, along with a few others early on, were fun in a way that reflected the movies instead of dragging the story down. And it might be obvious to say, but the gameplay in this game lives or dies by how invested I am in the story. If the narrative is strong, the puzzles and interactions feel rewarding, but if the story slows down, the gameplay starts to feel like a chore. That's why I want to focus on the positives, because when the story and gameplay are working hand in hand, this is where the game shines the brightest. Like the Expo, this segment of the game was something that I had been looking forward to since I was a kid. When I think about this game, I always think about this image. The man in the diving suit. I don't know why, but for some reason, that's the first thing that pops into my head every single time. So when I found out the Expo is where I would finally be able to see this guy, I was pumped. I took that excitement into the segment and explored every little nook and cranny I could. And while doing that, I was able to deduce how I needed to use the environment to complete the puzzles laid out before me. And I really enjoyed that. For example, I found the cop's recording plant, but I couldn't just take it. Instead, I discovered a similar plant in the Home of the Future exhibit, and I swapped them out and planted it, pun not intended, in the phone booth, and called her using my best Doc impression to trick Edna into giving up what the big plan between her and Doc was. I wouldn't have even found this stuff if I wasn't having fun and enjoying the storyline being put in front of me, and honestly, this ended up being one of the highlights of my time with the game. Now you're probably thinking, wow, this is just basic environmental puzzle design, and yeah, you're 100% right. But here's the thing, when the story is entertaining enough to make you want to keep exploring, those basic puzzles become something more. They become engaging, they become memorable, they become symbiotic. And on top of all of that, this segment also had a sick-ass maze where you had to shift the walls around to get to Old Doc and Young Doc. So yeah, this part of the game definitely has that going for it. To me, that's a testament of how engaging Telltale's core environmental mechanics are. Even if the story itself starts to wane a bit there, sure, sometimes those mechanics can feel a little janky, a little, frankly, aggravating, but we'll get to that when we get to that. I'm not going to bog this video down with a full in-depth recap of everything that happens in this game, because if we were doing that, we'd be here for 3 hours, and it would not be very interesting. So I'll just talk about a couple story beats, and how I like them, and how they are true to Back to the Future. While I already mentioned that Telltale brought on Bob Gale and other creative minds from the trilogy to help work on this game, I really have to give them credit here. Bringing Bob on to help write the game was one of the best decisions they could have ever made, and it shows. The story isn't a rehash or retelling of the movies, but the backbone and passion that define the trilogy are absolutely present here. And that's thanks to Bob Gale and Telltale for crafting a narrative inspired by the unused ideas from Back to the Future Part 2. Particularly the concept of exploring Doc's past and getting to know him on a more deeper level. That isn't the only example of the game bearing resemblance to the films. In every chapter there are scenes that feel like they're ripped straight out of the films, narratively, visually, and emotionally. I'm going to give you a couple examples from each chapter to really hit home how this game is basically a Back to the Future Part 4. Episode 1. When Marty and Einstein travel back to 1931, they immediately get caught in the middle of a police chase, which is really similar to Back to the Future Part 2 when they go to the future and the chaos that just happens. You also get Marty stealing his grandfather's hat from Kid Tannen and running away. I think that literally has happened in every Back to the Future movie where there's a chase between Marty and a Biff. Plus, there's also a scene where you have to use a tape recorder to trick his grandpa into coming downstairs. Very reminiscent of Part 1 where Marty uses the cassette tape. Episode 2. This one's got some of my favorite callbacks. Marty starts fading out of time because his grandfather gets gunned down by one of Tannen's goons. So he has to go back to the time period that he was just in, and has to avoid his past self. I really love that. It felt straight out of Back to the Future Part 2. The whole sequence where current Marty has to avoid old Marty while interacting with Edna and Emmett was great. Then you've got Marty and Doc taking down Tannen using Emmett's hover car. When Tannen flies out and lands in the manure truck, classic Back to the Future. It's my headcanon that every Tannen has had some form of animal shit in their mouth caused by a McFly. Marty being taken to the future that's been corrupted and seeing the effects that his mistakes have on the timeline, it's always great. I really liked how this timeline feels like a mixture of both the original timeline and the happy timeline from the movies. It takes Marty's crappy parents, his alcoholic mom, his pushover perv dad, and then it throws in a slow pushover Biff to top it all off. Overall, solid episode. Episode 4. Near the end of this episode, Marty has to basically be an asshole to young Emmett to make him realize he didn't need Edna Strickland, and tells him he'll never become a great scientist, which drives Emmett to prove him wrong and to prove himself. This slightly mirrors part 1, where Marty has to be an asshole to his mom to get her off of his back. After Marty and Emmett have their argument, Emmett falls off the town hall building and ends up dangling from a rope, which is just like part 1 where Doc is hanging off the clock tower. I will admit this one is a bit of a stretch, but that's what I thought of when I was playing that segment. Episode 5. About halfway through this episode, Doc gets erased from the timeline and Marty thinks he's dead, but instead of dying, Doc just gets overridden with the regular Doc, and it reminded me of the ending of Back to the Future 1, when Marty comes back from the past and sees Doc get shot and thinks he failed to change the timeline, only to realize that Doc is alive, and this scene was it was so heartfelt. I really loved it. Throughout this episode, Doc is working against Marty to try to protect his old timeline, but after Edna finally shows her true self, things take a turn. There's a moment where she almost hits Marty with the DeLorean, but Doc pushes him out of the way to save him. That leads into a heartfelt moment between the two where they put their differences aside, and Doc proves that he really does care about Marty. And that it's just such a fantastic payoff. Great scene. Then we get to the ending, which honestly, this is peak Back to the Future. You've got 3 different Martys from the future all showing up to try to convince Doc to go to the future with them to fix the timeline. It mirrors the ending of part 1, but it closes like part 3, with Doc saying time isn't written and reminding Marty that they still have a present to catch up to. They leave together, ready to go on another adventure. To me, this was the perfect way to end off this game. It semi-resets the canon. It doesn't change anything from the original films, but it changes my perspective on how I watched the last movie, knowing that they're going to go on more adventures. And it's also awesome that Doc stays in the present time with Marty, and the fact that the two of them continue to have adventures throughout time. I really love that. Here's my final thoughts. These are just a few notable instances where the game really feels like Back to the Future, and honestly, I'm curious to see if you remember seeing any scenes that felt like super Back to the Future-y that I left out. I have to say, this game was expertly written, and it was just such a fun experience from start to finish. On top of that, it was fantastic that a majority of the original cast came back to reprise their roles for this game. The original cast coming back made the game feel like true Back to the Future Part 4, and honestly, I don't think it would have felt like a proper sequel without them. I'm just glad I live in the timeline where they all came back to reprise their characters. Now, while I pointed out a bunch of references to the movies, I haven't dug into the story itself as deeply as I wanted to, and the story, it's fantastic. The decision to take us back and learn more about Doc as a young man was honestly the best move that Telltale and Bob Gale could have made, because we already know Marty and his family inside and out, so why not shine a spotlight on the man who made time travel possible? Getting to see young Emmett Brown, learning about his family and his life before science, and then watching him grow into the Doc that we know and love, that was brilliant. The love and care that was put into his arc was phenomenal, and it shows just how much Bob Gale and the Telltale team respect the films. After I finished this game, I decided to go back and rewatch the first movie, and it honestly added a ton of new context. In the movie, 1955 Doc is overjoyed when one of his inventions finally works.
It worked! It worked! I finally invented something that works! Your ass, it works.
And now that hits even harder because of the game, where we see young Emmett fail again and again with his early inventions. I love how the game and the movies complement each other like that, each making the other feel more rich and have more depth. Overall, this story was great. Also, I'm sorry if you were coming to this video and looking for like an in-depth explanation of everything that happens in every episode. That's not plausible. That'd just be too long. But I will recommend that if you have the means to purchase a copy of this game and play it for yourself, because me personally, I'm proud to call this Back to the Future Part 4. Now, I don't want the positive things that I just told you about this game to be overshadowed by the negatives, but I gotta be honest, I have some stuff I have to get off my chest about this game. In the first episode, it was cool to go back to 1931 to see Prohibition Hill Valley, but I don't want to see that for 2 consecutive chapters or for 6 hours. I want to explore the timeline and jump around just like in the movies. That's why Chapter 3 was such a breath of fresh air. A breath that was sucked out of my lungs when I had to go back to 1931. And albeit we weren't doing the same things as we were before, and we were in a whole new environment, but it just felt a bit overused, just like the dialogue options in this game. This is the segment of the video that I will most likely be getting criticism on, but let me explain. In games that have dialogue trees, I love interacting with them when I feel like I'm getting a reward, and for the first 3 episodes of this game, I felt like I was vibing and enjoying the different info we could get from people when we talked to them. It felt like the info we were given was actually fleshing out either Hill Valley or the character we were talking to, and Chapter 3 is the one that comes to mind first. I love the dystopian authoritarian society that we get dropped into, so when I would talk to characters I already knew, like Marty's mom, Marty's dad, or his girlfriend, it was fun to see how the fundamental change to the world that Marty and his loved ones live in was shown through the dialogue. It made the dystopian world feel real and not just like the next episode or like Telltale was just trying to change stuff up to keep it interesting. I also really liked the similarities between Hill Valley under the control and influence of Doc Brown and Hill Valley under the control of Biff Tannen, 2 timelines ruined by a man's need to shape the community in his own image. One, stripping the rights and individuality of the people living there for their betterment, and the other, giving everyone complete and unfettered free will despite the consequences. These are 2 timelines that feel very different, but also very similar in the fact that they are just 2 different flavors of hell for Marty and the audience. But back to what I was saying. After a while and halfway through Chapter 4, I didn't feel the need to talk to everyone and click every dialogue option. Somewhere along the way, the reward for doing that just went away. And I don't know if it was because I was being worn down by the game's gameplay flaws and my frustrations with those mechanics, or if there was an invisible switch that got flipped somewhere in episode 4. So this isn't a dig at the game, this is just my personal opinion and frustration that I had to let out while thinking about this segment of the video. While I need to preface again for the sake of clarity, I don't think there's objectively a bad episode in the game's 5-episode run. However, I do have to say that there are some moments in the later episodes that objectively are not as strong as moments in the earlier ones, or even within the same episode. For example, in episode 5, when we have to go even further back into the past to get Edna and stop her from destroying Hill Valley, first we have to talk to her in 1931 to figure out what date she traveled back to when she stole the DeLorean. And holy shit, that entire segment was so boring, and I hated how you'd have to do everything perfectly, or she would just reset and you'd have to start all over from square one. This hindered the pacing a lot and on what could have been the coolest part of the game. And not to mention, after the old bitch finally gives you the date she went back to, we go back and stop her, and I'm pretty decent at games, and I have okay game sense, but playing that segment was genuinely agonizing. I must have had a mini stroke before getting to that section because it felt like I lost all higher brain function trying to solve that puzzle, and it's probably just because I'm pretty shit at puzzle games, for being real. That's besides the point. That segment of episode 5 was so slow and boring compared to anything else you do in the first 3 episodes of the game, and I believe the main reason for this issue is padding. I don't think Telltale, when they were making this, thought, oh, let's cram a bunch of random stuff in here and make the episodes longer. I don't think that was intentional, and I certainly hope it wasn't. I genuinely think that when you're telling a time travel story, it's super easy to fall into padding, in order to tell the story fully without leaving anything out. I started to see some signs of padding in episode 2 when, we had to get young Doc on our side and have him help us get into the hidden speakeasy. Now, I don't think that was a bad narrative decision. I actually like it a fair bit. But I think the length of time that it took us to 1, get into the speakeasy, and 2, get young Doc on our side was unfortunately a detriment to the story's pacing. And this isn't the only episode where pacing and padding are an issue. I just think that when you play, you can definitely feel when the story and excitement is going down and the tedium is rising. And I don't want to come across as if I'm a low attention span doom scroller, but I think that if Telltale had smoothed out some of these pacing issues, I wouldn't have had as big of a problem with them as I did. There are a bunch of other examples I could give you about the quality and balance between episodes and even within episodes, but I think you get the point that I'm trying to make.
Now introducing Sam Gets Pissed Off by Games.
It's me again. Please come down. Why?
I should have played the...
Sorry.
He gets the word.
Some other time.
Guy sounds like a pussy!
Arthur. Maybe I should have led with the subpoena.
Bite the curb! Bite like the curb! Say goodnight! Okay, I'm taking the headset off. I can't with this shit. I can't with that. What now, bro? Skip dialogue button. Add a skip dialogue button. Holy shit. Oh! Ah! I hit A because I'm trying to skip to the dialogue. Now I have to listen to this shit. I'm gonna kill myself. Yeah, that's how I feel. Holy shit.
I'm working on him.
Oh my, what the fuck am I supposed to do then? How many times do I have to? Oh my goodness.
Emmett?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so now I really need to talk about the mechanical and gameplay issues that I experienced, and oh boy, there are a lot of things to bitch and moan about, so lock in and enjoy the ride. We have two mechanics that are tied for first place in the race for most aggravating thing ever fucking implemented into a game. And the kicker is that both of these D1 fuck-ups are the mechanics that you interact with most in the game. First, we have the camera. I will say that this is my second time playing a Telltale game and my first time completing one, so I don't have much experience with them as a developer, but who in their right mind thought that having a fixed camera and changing scenes was a good idea? On paper, it is perfect. It fits the cinematic style of the films, and it keeps you in the mindset that you're playing a spiritual fourth movie. But holy shit, while they were playtesting this, did no one say how jank this shit was? During my playthrough, I fought with the camera the entire damn time, because when you are in one scene, your movements are normal, smooth, and controlled, but as soon as you cross the invisible line and enter the next scene, the controls completely shit the bed. If you hold your stick the same way that you were in the first scene, nothing will change, and you will naturally keep walking as if the only thing that changed was the scene. But as soon as you need to bust a turn out and go a different direction, everything becomes all sorts of fucked up. I don't even think saying the controls invert is a valid way of explaining it. It's like playing a guessing game with your stick to see which way Marty will walk, and oh my goodness, that is so annoying. Okay, bro, are you good? I'm gonna crash out. I'm gonna break my monitor. Oh, where the fuck am I? We couldn't have worked on that a bit longer or tried to alleviate some of that bullshit. No, that's okay, because I can complain about something as important, or even more important, the inventory system. Now arguably the most important mechanic in this game, an inventory puzzle game, is the inventory system and how you navigate the environment to complete puzzles, right? Yep, you're right. By golly, by gosh, they nailed it. First, let's talk about the inventory issues. Most puzzles require you to acquire an item and either use it on another item or give it to somebody or put it somewhere. And while most of the time doing that works relatively okay, my biggest issue is when you are done using the item. And this happens so often while playing the game, it genuinely made me want to throw my headphones off and my controller through my monitor. Because I just used the item. Put it back in my inventory!
It's a good thing I did this before Emmett's 12-hour time limit, where the cleanser might have dissolved the fur. I already sprayed him. Let's slip out of those furs, shall we?
I know this is probably only a me issue, and after playing for a while I realized that if you hit the B button, it would go back into my inventory, but I wish the game would just automatically do that whenever I used an item properly, so I don't have to hear Marty say some stupid fucking one-liner when I would try to interact with someone or something, and I have the fucking item still in my hand.
The longer you hold out, the harder it's going to be for you!
Nah.
Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? I had the fucking potted plant in my hand that entire fucking time? Oh my gosh! When you're done using an item in the game, automatically take it out of my fucking hand. Holy shit. Holy shit. Fuck me. Oh, nah. There are so many scenes, Sam gets pissed at video games. That could be a 40-minute highlight reel of that game doing that stupid shit. This genuinely pissed me off, and I wish that they made this minor issue not even an issue in the first place. Is that hard? There were many times when I would have to bring an item to someone where the game would be a huge pain in the ass, and the main example comes from episode 4 when I needed to get Emmett's family photos, a diamond, and a fur. I was under the impression that I needed to get all of these items and hand them to Trixie all at once. Wrong! Well, no, actually. The game wanted me to get each item and pull it out of my inventory and hand them to her one by one. And any time that I would try to interact with her without having it in my inventory, she would tell me the same thing over and over again. Jamie, roll the clip.
You got all the props I asked for? The
Yes.
furs and the diamond?
Yes.
And your friend's photo album?
Not all of them yet, but I'm working
What the
on
fuck
it.
am I missing?
I'm itching to give Miss High and Mighty an eyeful.
If I knew that that was what the game wanted me to do from the beginning, I would have gotten Emmett's family photos, went back to her, handed them to her. The fur, handed it to her. The diamond, handed it to her. No. I was under the impression that, oh, I gather all of the items. I go to Trixie. Hey, Trixie. That's not Marty McFly. Hey, Trixie, I've got all the items. Here you go. But I didn't know that, so I gathered everything she needed and I went and talked to her, and I thought that after she asked if I had gotten them, Marty would have said, oh yes, and then handed all of them to her. But nope, I had to go into my inventory manually and hand them one to one individually, which it was annoying. It really pissed me off. But in the long run, it's not that big of a deal. Fur, photo album, diamond. Fuck are we talking about? I don't know. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? Diamond. I have that. If I have to walk up to her...
Voila.
Oh my...
Say, pretty snazzy for a phony rock. Gimme.
Hey, Trixie.
Why the fuck? When she
Are
says,
these
"Oh, you
furs
have
good
them all?"
enough?
Yeah, hand them to her.
They're a little ratty, but
Individually
they'll
hand
work.
this shit. What are we doing,
Now
game?
bring me that photo
Fuck me,
album
this
and
game.
we'll be in business.
Golly, dude. Telltale, what are we doing? But just to reiterate, this happened multiple times throughout my playthrough, other episodes, but this one stuck out to me the most because of how pissed off it made me. Like, I genuinely, there's multiple scenes, and I'm probably gonna play them in the clips, where I become nonverbal. I just get that pissed off. I'm just done. Now if you're thinking, oh, so while we're nitpicking, I wouldn't blame you. Most of the things that I've talked about so far are little inconveniences that could have been avoided if I, played the game like a smart person and not like an absolute dipshit. But the next thing isn't a me issue. It is a fundamental fuck up in this game, and one of the reasons why I got so pissed off so often in my playthrough.
What are you referring to, Sam? What are you talking about?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Do you know what I'm talking about? Hey, Okay, he's not paying attention. I am talking about navigating the environment, to be exact. In this game, you have a little marker that goes over and highlights what you can interact with in the game. And there were countless times where I would have to click on something specific, and I wouldn't be able to click on it for some reason. I would have to filter through every other interactable item in the environment before I could get to it. And the most notable instance of this prevalent issue was when I had to navigate to an item in a very specific amount of time, and in a specific order as well. Or, I would fail and have to start over, and this was in the very first episode where we're helping Emmett with his invention. He has to talk to his dad to get him off his case, and while he's doing that, he's giving us code on what order to interact with the items in his workshop. It took me a couple tries to understand what was happening, because apparently, whenever I play a game and I have a camera on my face, it takes away half of my IQ. But after I figured the goal of the puzzle out, the main problem reared its ugly head. During this puzzle, I would have to interact with an item in order to build electricity. And keep in mind, we're in probably the most tight and closed-off area of the game, and I would have to navigate between 4 or 5 interactables, and this was so hard because of the game's issue with targeting. I would want to use the bellows to fan the flame, but I would have 2 things next to it wanting me to use it, and if I didn't point Marty in the right direction, he would hit the wrong item and fuck the entire thing up. I'm probably rambling, so I'll let In the Moment Stream Sam take it from here, but I hope you enjoy the pain with me. Or him. Am I real?
Get to control my life just because you fed and... Just pay attention to what I say.
Emmett!
Fuck! I can't see it! I can't see it! I can't see it.
Eating you, Pop? I don't know either. Don't touch anything until I tell you to.
Emmett!
Oh. Nah, I'm pausing this shit. I need to take a second. Dude, what? Now I'm conflicted about this issue. I think this might have been such a bad issue because I was playing on Xbox 360 and not on PC. I know for a fact that if I was playing on PC, this segment of the video would not exist. So I'm going to give it the teensy, tiniest little bit of slack because of the system I was playing it on. But holy fuck. I think some of my most angry moments playing a game came from these 3 issues. And, you know, I played Dark Souls on Xbox 360. Didn't beat it. Played it for like 2 hours and then wanted to kill myself. I'd rather do that. I think those are all the issues that I had with the game, or, you know, actual issues and not just operator error. But if you played this game and you experienced any other issues, drop them in the comments. I really want to know what pissed you off, what you didn't like about the mechanics. Let me know. When I first started playing this game, I was stoked. Genuinely excited to finally get my hands on it. That excitement stuck with me all the way up until episode 4. Toward the end of episode 3 and the beginning of episode 4, though I realized something. Yes, I was still enjoying the story and where Telltale was taking the game, but I also had to admit to myself that I just didn't like the way the game plays. I don't like complaining. It's bullshit. I love complaining. This game is fun. I do think that this game is fun, and it feels like Back to the Future, but at the same time, oh my gosh, running around, do this, do that, grab this, talk to this person, talk about that, talk about this, do this, do that, do that. It's getting really freaking tiring. It's getting boring. The clunky camera, the inventory puzzles, the fetch quests, and the lengthy and often unnecessary dialogue. These issues were really starting to weigh on me. It got to the point where I didn't actually want to play the game anymore, but I knew I did because I wanted to see where the story was going. And I really hate that. When I popped the disc into my Xbox 360, I was fully aware this wasn't going to be the kind of game that I usually enjoy, and I was ready for that. I expected to adapt to the different kind of gameplay, and I did in a way, but it came at the cost of pure, unrefined fun. At the same time, one of my biggest worries going in that the story would feel cheap and hollow or disconnected from the movies. Thankfully, it was the complete opposite. The story was handled with such love and care that it not only met my expectations, it exceeded them. And I can't even begin to explain how happy that makes me. And that's where I'm torn. Does a game with a really good story but bad gameplay make the game bad itself? Or vice versa, does a game with a bad story that has really good gameplay automatically make it good? For me, Back to the Future the game is proof that sometimes the heart of a story can carry you further than the mechanics ever could. Even though this game frustrated me more times than I can count, whether it was the clunky gameplay, the tedious puzzles, or the moments where the story slowed down or even retreaded ground, I can't help but walk away from it with a smile. Because at the end of the day, what Telltale managed to do here, especially with the help of Bob Gale and the original cast returning to reprise our roles, is nothing short of incredible. The story feels authentic, heartfelt, and genuinely like a continuation of the movies that I grew up with. And that's why I'm so torn. As a 20-year-old sitting here now, I can pick apart the mechanics, the pacing, and all the little frustrations that pulled me out of the experience. But when I think back to the 10-year-old version of me, the kid who would have given anything to step into the Back to the Future universe, this game delivered on that dream. I might not have always loved playing it, but I definitely loved experiencing it. So regardless of all the issues that I brought up, I'm genuinely glad I finally sat down and played this. Not just for me, but for that kid who used to watch the movies on repeat. The kid who knew every line by heart. The kid who imagined what it would be like to jump into the DeLorean and time travel alongside Doc and Marty. And for that reason alone, I can honestly say, I still love this game. I still love the vibe that it creates, and I'm glad I decided to play it. And if you haven't tried it for yourself, I do recommend giving it a shot. Ideally on PC if you can, though. Now, I'm not sure how legal that is, but, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. Arg! Arg! Pirate. You get it. At the very least, it's worth experiencing the story once, because it really does feel like a gift from fans to fans. And for me, it wasn't about finding the perfect game. This was about honoring a piece of my childhood, and in that sense, I couldn't have asked for more. thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. Subscribe. I don't know what that guy's doing back there. If I'm being 100%, I don't know what that little guy's doing. He's giving me the heebie-jeebies. I'll see you in the future. I mean, I don't think he'll see you in the future. I think he might see the the four concrete walls of a prison. What are you doing back there, big guy? You all right? You good? Okay. All right. Thanks for watching. Did the game just crash? Did the game just crash? Did the game just crash? I believe the game just crashed. I believe the Xbox just crashed.